explicit connotations. Well, I'm Elise from the crowdfunded translation project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Indian left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jacobin, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballot or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Caviese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach. And then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Chilean left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jargon, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballot or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Cabiese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach. And then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Chilean left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jacobin, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballad or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Caviese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires? What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach, and then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. Well, I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Indian left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jargon, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballot or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Caviese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics, one of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach. And then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like or and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. I'm Elise from the crowdfunded translation project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Chilean left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble and really building connections there. So the discussion that you hear in English about Chile, even in supposed left outlets, such as Jargon, often has little or nothing to do with the state of discussion amongst comrades in Chile. So this is part of my attempts to contribute to sort of breaking down that bubble and fostering some understanding of the thought amongst revolutionaries in Chile, both historically and currently. I have so far translated 7 articles, including a long read on electoralism versus armed struggle called Chile, the Ballad or the Bullet by Punto Final editor Manuel Caviese, and currently am working on various pieces of political analysis from the eve of the electoral campaign that would bring Salvador Allende to power, or at least to government. These include discussions of electoral versus revolutionary strategy and how and to what extent these things can coexist, discussions of US imperialist interference in Chilean politics. One of the challenges of this project, since its inception, has been getting the word out. The billionaire-controlled black box algorithms that dominate our lives don't like small creators or small projects. Nor are they particularly keen on ideological viewpoints that are inconsistent with the whims of billionaires. What's more, they positively detest anyone who isn't paying for reach. And then they turn around and make it ever harder to do even that in a useful way. The result of all this is that there are definitely considerably more people who would be interested in this project than actually see any of my posts about it. And that's why I have a small favor to ask you. Tell your friends about the crowdfunded translation project. Share the completed translations, link the Patreon and the Facebook pages. All those links are in the description. Let people know that this project exists and what it's all about. Let them know that I want to hear their ideas for future crowdfunded translation projects at crowdfunded_translations@elisehendrick.com. And if you've got any ideas, I'd love to hear them. Ultimately, the crowdfunded translation project is for us all. The whole idea is to translate texts that have fallen through the cracks by making it economically viable for a professional translator, i.e. me, to work on them and to make the results freely available to everyone. I think that a lot of great things are coming out of the project, and even more can result from it yet. But it all depends on making the project visible to the people who might benefit from it and consider supporting it. Thank you for watching for this length of time. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that it will encourage you to get in touch with the crowdfunded translation project, look at our translations, to get in touch with, to get involved with the crowdfunded translation project. Make suggestions, read the translations, let people know that this exists. This could be a great resource, but it's been a real fucker trying to get the word out about it. So thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Thank you very much. Even watching this and commenting and leaving a like and sharing it on your platforms, or even to yourself in an email apparently, will help increase the visibility of this video and thus of this project. Thanks so much, and see you on the next stream. Hey, implicit connotations. Well, I'm Elise from the Crowdfunded Translation Project, and wanted to just tell you a little bit about what that project is and give you some updates about what I've been doing with your support. The Inessa Armand project. After finishing Kalantai's social basis of the female question, I put out a call for suggestions for the next project. One of those suggestions that I received was to translate the essays and letters of Inessa Armand, Kalantai's predecessor at the Bolshevik women's section. Suppressed by Stalin and never translated into English, Armand's writings enrich our understanding of the Bolshevik women's movement in the run-up to the October Revolution and the early days of revolutionary Russia. With your support, I have been able to translate all of her extant essays and am currently raising the last $1,950 to cover the cost of translating the remainder of her extant works, which at this point is just her correspondence. If you would like to support the project, all contributions are beautiful. You'll find links in the description. The Punto Final project is a project that is really just at its inception. Punto Final, for those unfamiliar with it, i.e. likely most of the people watching this right now, was a magazine edited by Manuel Caviese Donoso that ran from 1965 to the eve of the 1973 CIA-backed coup in Chile, and then from 1989 to 2018, publishing a grand total of 894 issues. In addition to being a platform for theoretical and ideological debate, they were also a source of excellent political journalism. Their real-time analysis of political developments in Chile, the rise of the Unidad Popular, the looming coup, and the limits of electoralism has aged extremely well, and is well worth reading for anyone interested in the period. The Indian left is sort of in a media bubble, and the Anglosphere left really doesn't do a great job of breaking that bubble.
Well, welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the Hasbara, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Be kind to the guys in this mess in the first place.
You can put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hey, implicit connotations. Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. How's everybody doing tonight? As we look at what we've got here, I thought we might start out with what looks like some high-grade slop. David Pac-Man wants us to know, there are suddenly problems everywhere. Yeah, suddenly. Everything was just fine last week, but now suddenly things aren't working. That it's so weird like that, how there were just suddenly problems. I mean, the 21st century had been going so well. But let's find out what these sudden problems are, according to Slopcaster David Pac-Man. Bonsoir.
The 3-week war with Iran just got even bigger. U.S. strikes are ramping.
Wait. When is this? 3 weeks doesn't sound right. This is 3 days ago. Okay. Oh, I see. He's doing an irony. Okay, got it.
Up. Iran is retaliating. There are new threats. If the war's been over 9 times, why does it keep escalating? We will try to address that question. today.
Well, I'm guessing. I'm just gonna spitball here and just put it right out there. But maybe because it's not over. Maybe because the U.S. keeps on violating ceasefires and not abiding by agreements, and Israel keeps doing the same thing. And it'll be interesting to see if David manages to get through this discussion without ever actually mentioning Israel. He's very good at that, usually.
A bizarre new video has people asking, why is Donald Trump now unable to walk in a straight line? Is it age?
Had we been watching his walking in a straight line before this?
Is it vision? Is it balance? Is it something neurological?
Maybe he's just shit-faced.
People seeing a pattern where none exists? We will dive deep. We'll also look at a stunning comment from Republican Congressman James Comer, who is saying the problem is brown people.
Well, I mean, so what's stunning there is that a Republican was racist? Yeah, it is a beautifully ironed shirt. Actually, no, the collar does not look new to me. I think this shirt was actually very nicely pressed. I'm not sure about it. It really kind of attacks my eyes in this color scheme. I mean, if he had a warmer background, I don't think that would be as much, but his background is all like gray and stuff. And so that shirt is actually kind of giving me a little bit of a headache.
We're looking for election fraud. Look at minorities. Are we really going back to that?
Going back suggests we ever left that. They've been there. We've been with that for like basically since George W. Bush stole his first election.
And Fox News hosts are suddenly asking questions that Trump won't like. If
not for the first time. That's happened a couple of times, and it's actually happened primarily in relation specifically to the war of aggression against Iran.
The war has been almost over so many times. How come it seems less over than ever? And inflation surges to a 3+ year high. And if you don't consider the COVID global inflation crisis, to its highest level in more than 10 years under the affordability president. All of that and more.
I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't consider that. Because we never really totally recovered from that shit. It's not like the prices went down significantly after that, and so it was just a one-off. It's all been pretty cumulative. Wow, that looks like a fucking mausoleum portrait.
The most ended war in history is back. It's growing. It's escalating. We're in week 15 of what was supposed to be a 3-week war with Iran. After ending it, 9-10 times? The war is now raging. Trump going, the war's over.
I like how the war is just this thing of its own. It's not anyone doing stuff. It's just the war is doing stuff. The war is raging. It's not like the U.S. is just and Israel are back to, back suggests again that they left, bombing the shit out of defenseless civilians as payback for their military embarrassments.
But just watch me drop a bunch more bombs. It started with Donald Trump on Truth Social yesterday. He posted.
Wait, does he mean metaphorically? Or are we talking literal ones? That's not a great metaphor to be using, my dude.
Quote, I have just been informed by our great military that last night the Iranians shot down one of our highly sophisticated Apache helicopters.
Laugh reacts only.
While patrolling over the Strait of Hormuz. There were 2 pilots involved. Both are safe and uninjured.
Nevertheless, I wonder, are we ever going to find out the name of that first one who was supposedly rescued? That kind of went away quickly, and now we got 2 more who are totally safe. I wonder if we're going to ever find out who they were.
Nevertheless, the United States must, of necessity, respond to this attack.
This attack that was actually a response to a U.S. attack. Are we still doing thank you for your attention to this? Backman is just upset with the hostile tone of Trump. Yeah, exactly. If this was done politely and with a little bit more attention to a credible pretext, He would be absolutely cool about this.
Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, even without Trump retaliating, like just at the point...
retaliating is not what you call it when somebody retaliates against you. Especially not when you started the fucking thing in the first place. That's not called retaliating. Wasn't there like a Calvin and Hobbes or maybe a Family Circle comic compilation a long time ago called Mom, He Hit Me Back? Like, what is this? Like, the U.S. isn't retaliating against shit. The U.S. started this thing.
Trump posted this. If Iran took out our helicopter, the war isn't over, and it's probably not close to over.
So is he just noticing that?
Now Trump is retaliating. The war is building. It is a war, despite being told many times that it's just a special military operation. It's an excursion.
I don't think anyone actually specifically used that term. That's just... Yeah, he's just using that to just kind of make this look Russian.
Incursion. Now, I think it is important just to consider.
No, it's most certainly not an incursion, because that would require the U.S. to actually manage to make it into Iranian territory, and they haven't really succeeded at that.
That Donald Trump has redefined the word ceasefire, where ceasefires can now include bombing.
Oh, wait, he's just noticed this. He's just noticed that this concept of ceasefire exists. That has been the definition, the operative definition of the ceasefire in Gaza since the very start. Like every single one of the so-called ceasefires in Gaza in the past couple of years, since late 2023, has been defined this way, and he never said shit about it. He's just noticing this now.
How do you define ceasefire? Pretty much the way it is. It's a different part of the world. I'd say in that part of the world, ceasefire is when you're shooting in a more moderate manner.
I mean, the only difference between the situation before this was that the U.S. kind of just pretended that there just wasn't any ceasefire violations by them, and now they're saying, oh, yes, it is a ceasefire when you shoot in a more moderate manner.
Moderate shooting is a ceasefire, according to Donald Trump, in the Middle East.
I mean, it also, according to Israel, has been for a bit.
An innovative definition.
Yeah, I mean, this is already impressive that he's managing not to notice this, not to make any observations that at all bring up the fact that this is literally the operative definition of every so-called ceasefire that Israel has supposedly agreed to, and the U.S. has supposedly agreed to in Gaza. And in Lebanon, for 15 months, actually, there was a so-called ceasefire in Lebanon, and that involved Hezbollah not firing, because it's a ceasefire, and it involved Israel continuing to bomb and murder people, because they're Israel.
I thought that we weren't going to see any of this. Words mean whatever I want them to mean.
Shit, sorry.
Against that stuff.
Sorry about that. Allergies are acting up a little bit. What the hell did he just say?
Moderate shooting is a ceasefire, according to Donald Trump, in the Middle East. Certainly an innovative definition. I thought that we weren't going to see any of this. Words mean whatever I want them to mean stuff.
Oh, why did you think that? What on earth could have made you think that we weren't going to see that?
For Republicans, because they're against that stuff. But Trump's doing it. Ceasefire means the fighting continues. We then heard this morning from a Fox News correspondent who was told by Donald Trump, strikes are coming. This is going to be a big one. Take a look at this.
Now, interestingly, President Trump told me that he is getting close to ordering new strikes against Iranian power plants and bridges because...
And he already carried out strikes against Iranian civilian water infrastructure for the second time. It's worth noting. We'll see, and that was just in the past few days too, so we'll see if David mentions that.
He says the Iranians are tapping the United States along when it comes to the negotiating process. He says...
Well, no. I mean, the U.S. is refusing to accept the terms that are on the table.
The bully of the Middle East is dead, and he told me I may keep going. When I asked him about a possible response to the Iranian missile fire that targeted U.S. forces in Kuwait, Bahrain, and Jordan overnight, The president said they had a chance to sign a deal and survive, indicating again that he may order new strikes against the Iranian regime in response to their dragging their feet at the negotiations.
Dragging their feet. The U.S. has just refused to accept an entirely a deal that they would actually have to be saying, given the nature of all this, that they were getting off easy.
Table. Look at where we are. An American Apache. This is after the war ended 9 times. Okay.
See, I mean, I can't help thinking that if Harris was in here, it's not that this wouldn't be going on, because I'm not entirely convinced that it wouldn't be. Because if you looked at the 2024 Democratic Party platform was all about Trump isn't violent enough against Iran. So I'm not entirely convinced that this wouldn't be happening, but what I am entirely convinced of is that David wouldn't be saying shit about it. Well, I mean, the U.S. is not so much... I don't think stalling is quite the right word. Because the problem is this. If the U.S. accepts the entirely reasonable terms that are on offer, they are admitting defeat. This whole thing has been, since 2023, has been allowed to just fucking rage on with, hundreds of thousands of people murdered to a great extent because the U.S. and Israel do not want to admit that they cannot win militarily. They want to restore deterrence, and each time they try, it ends badly for them. I mean, huge numbers of civilians are murdered by them. It ends extremely badly for them, of course, as well. But militarily, they end up getting humiliated each single time. And so if the U.S. accepts this sort of deal, then it is the definitive humiliation because it is admitting, because it requires the U.S. to accept that the U.S. does not just own everything in the Middle East. And that's the problem. Trump won't accept that, but no other U.S. president would either, really, because that is giving up a strategic position that the U.S. considers themselves the owners of.
A U.S. Apache helicopter is downed near the Strait of Hormuz. Trump says we've got to retaliate, and now they're talking about strikes against...
Notice he does not ever call into question the use of the word retaliate, because he's leaving out what happened before, which includes the direct attack on Iranian civilian water supply infrastructure that left about, I think, 40,000 people without water. That was what this was in response to.
Power facilities. CENTCOM is calling these self-defense strikes ordered by Trump because of the helicopter situation.
Self-defense strikes. That's great. You invade somebody else's country in somebody else's region. You are, by all definitions, the aggressor. But when somebody shoots back, you can then attack them in so-called self-defense. That's cute. Yeah, you notice nobody ever describes Iran's actual self-defense as that.
And then Iran has responded to the response with missile and drone attacks targeting American positions in Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan. So we now have had, the war was going to be 3 weeks. We're in week 15, and we have had months.
That's his only complaint. That's seriously, that it's just, it hasn't ended soon enough?
Of Donald Trump saying negotiations and a deal are days away. Negotiations are almost complete. Negotiations are almost finalized. We're close to a breakthrough. We just need the final details. And every time we supposedly are on the verge of this finish line, something explodes.
Well, yes, because, again, the U.S. does not want to accept any deal that will amount to an admission of defeat. And that's where we are, because the thing is, they've been militarily humiliated. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely he is.
Metaphorically or literally. The bridge and the power plant stuff really matters because that's national infrastructure, and this is not about...
It's civilian infrastructure also, David. You will find that that's called a war crime. Also, when you bomb somebody else's water infrastructure, that's also a war crime.
This is a general comment about whether this is escalatory or de-escalatory. You do that. You go after national infrastructure when you're expanding pressure rather.
Wait, okay, so he's not even going to point out that that's a war crime.
Than winding down a conflict. So if you ask me, are we, despite Trump's 9 claims, or some people said it was actually 30 times, but I think sometimes he's referring to the same series of negotiations. At least 9 times Trump has claimed this is basically over.
Well, yeah, he has, probably even more than that. But the U.S. is never going to accept, that is the situation. The U.S. and Israel are not going to accept a deal because it requires them to acknowledge a certain amount of defeat. And so they're doing what they do, which is to take their military embarrassments out on other people's civilians.
Now moving in the direction of it being less over than it has been in a really long time. Stock market's very much down today. Absolutely total chaos economically. We'll get to the new inflation numbers.
Yeah, I mean, not a single word about how many people in Iran were killed by any of this.
But how many times can you describe a conflict as almost over before people notice that it's actually getting bigger? Well, later...
I mean, I think people were noticing that from the start.
In the show, Fox News hosts don't seem to be buying this crap anymore. Saying, I don't know if it's going to work for Trump to just continually say, we're almost there, it's almost over, etc. A helicopter gets shot down, retaliatory strikes, Iranian attacks on American bases, threats to bomb power plants. This is not winding down. And meanwhile, the economic consequences are getting to the point where, of course,
like everything gets mentioned except the fact that, again, large numbers of civilians in Iran were killed or left without water.
People who didn't vote for Trump are furious and they're blaming Trump. Of course, the majority of independents, some of whom voted for Trump, some who didn't, are saying what's happening economically is because of Donald Trump. But we are now even starting to see more and more
I mean, Gaza for him is lava. He just will not touch it. I mean, Lebanon's not getting mentioned either. I mean, again, this is the U.S. and Israel have been continuing to destroy civilian infrastructure there. They've been engaged in just outright ethnic cleansing. And there, too, they're finding that this is not a good time to be an aggressor.
Republicans blame Trump along these same lines, as well they should. The 2026 election is not looking good for Republicans, but it is not about scoring political victories.
Oh, it kind of sounded like it was, though. I mean, no, wait. I should give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure he's going to start talking about how it's about the thousands and thousands and thousands of Lebanese and Iranian civilians who have been murdered by targeted strikes on civilian infrastructure by the United States without any accountability for the perpetrators. I'm sure that's what's on the tip of his tongue right now.
You talk to a random working class family, 2 parents working with a couple of kids in Michigan. Do you think they have been convinced that this 15-week, 3-week war that has spiked gas prices and energy prices and inflation has now hit a 3+ year record? Do you think they're sitting around going, well, you know what? It's worth it. It's worth it because
literally nobody liked. This is possibly the first. I think it is definitely the first war the U.S. has started that was overwhelmingly unpopular before the first shot was even fired. Like, this started out with virtually nobody supporting it. Yeah, across party affiliation lines and everything too. It started out with zero support, practically, outside of just Washington and political talking heads.
Doesn't have a nuclear weapon or whatever. I don't think so. And just take a look at these inflation numbers that just came in hours ago. The affordability president, Donald Trump, just got disastrous news. Inflation has spiked to 4.2% year over year.
Is this disastrous for him? I mean, it seems like he doesn't mind, actually.
Energy is up, and he's a big...
Oh, wait, this is already the end of the chapter. Let me see. Is that all he's going to say about the war crimes? Yes, it is. Oh, sorry about that again. Fucking allergies.
Big driver of that 4.2% inflation number. Inflation has now surpassed the 4% mark for the first time in 3 years. You have to go all the way back to, actually, let's see here, April of 2023.
Okay. Let's see what else we've got here. one thing I wanted to mention, this is sort of an idea related to the crowdfunded translation project, sort of a side project I was thinking of possibly doing if people are interested. It just seemed like a fun thing to do that maybe people would enjoy. And, okay, so there is, if you listen to the promo video for the crowdfunded translation project, the music in the background, that is a soundtrack by a guy by the name of Walter Kubitschek for this high camp East German spy drama from the 1970s starring Armin Müller-Stahl, who you may remember as the German guy with the mustache from X-Files, possibly. At least that's what I mostly know him from, other than this. But, so I was thinking of maybe coming up with English subtitles for it so more people could enjoy it. If that's something people might be interested in, I will figure out how much it would cost to fund that. Oh, I know where we're going. I mean, other than, like, someplace where there are lots of antihistamines. Right. That's right. It is time to watch Caleb Muppet, the ideological leader of the Creepy Pricks International over at the Ron Paul Liberty Report. Well, when he decided to stop pretending to be a communist, he decided to really lean heavy into that. He's hanging out with Moonies, he's hanging out with fucking Ron Paul bots. It's impressive. So let's see.
Well, thanks for tuning in to Liberty Report Extra.
Okay, this guy looks kind of familiar. Okay, this is supposedly HD. And yet, it looks like old VHS that has been badly converted.
I experimented with this format a couple of months ago, and so a few things came up. We had a little conference, a couple of things happened, but...
I mean, what's great about Ron Paul's love of liberty is that he's a white nationalist. So, I mean, always just really totally unobjectionable people that fucking Caleb Maupin loves to hang out with.
I know this is where try to go into some topics and people that...
When you talk about the white nationalism thing with Ron Paul, you'll get a lot of people... Back when Ron Paul's name was much bigger than it is now, back when he was supposedly the peace candidate in an... I forget, what was that? Possibly a 2011 election? 2012? I don't remember exactly. But you would point out that he's a white nationalist, and you'd get... just your mentions would be full of people going, no, he didn't write those newsletters. And I decided to look into it at the time, and it turned out, yes, he currently denies writing the extremely racist newsletters that were bearing his name. But back when he was running for office for the first time in Texas and still publishing those newsletters, he publicly said that he did indeed personally write them. He was personally responsible for the content, and he didn't see what was so racist about them.
Don't necessarily fit in with the regular Liberty Report, where we both mostly digest the news of the day. We try to give it some context.
Actually, there's kind of interesting stuff going on in North Korea. Apart from everything, I don't know if you've seen this, but the Wall Street Journal has this whole thing about how the economic boom in North Korea. They've like just sort of discovered the huge amount of like housing and new construction that's been going on in Pyongyang for several years now, which has turned it into, I mean, I have to say, like, when you look at the way these new neighborhoods there are designed, they look like something inspired by the Jetsons.
Sort of driven by the news cycle.
Fascinating.
And what I wanted to achieve with the extra show is to get a little bit more into ideas and not in.
Oh, this mouse annoys me.
Only a sectarian way, but in a broader context, exploring coalitions, exploring new ways of thinking, exploring how the world is changing in a broader context. And with that in mind, we're bringing back a guest from one of our original extra shows, someone I've known for a while. I think we met at the Rage Against the War Machine rally, but I've certainly followed his work for a long time, and that's Caleb Malkin. Caleb, thanks.
Oh, he was at the white nationalist, white Rage Against the War Machine rally. The one that was just all wall-to-wall neo-Nazis.
For coming back onto the program.
Sure, glad to be
What the hell is he wearing?
here.
Glad to have you back. Well, we had you a couple of months ago because you came out with a new book. Now you're coming out with another new book.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy to come out with new books when all you're doing is just like copying Twitter threads into MS Word.
Either you've been drinking a lot of coffee, or or I don't know what, but actually,
well, I do. They aren't good books. They're just crap. It's just Twitter threads. He doesn't edit them or proofread them. There are, I mean, one of my favorite examples of this. He had that thing about how a bread chew brother. I almost said Bluetooth. Yeah, is literally the CIA, and he has this thing where he was thanking this paragraph where he's thanking his editor, and the paragraph where he's thanking the editor has multiple typos in it, and it's like, if I were the editor, I would actually ask for name suppression. I think.
In all seriousness, this is more of a collection of your essays, not only your essays, but your writings, your activism.
It's a collection. It's not just essays. It's also writings and activism. Yeah.
And your interviews. And the title is intriguing, and that's one of the main reasons I really wanted to talk to you today.
What's the title?
Imperialism and anti-imperialism.
That's intriguing? Imperialism and anti-imperial... Wow. Like... Yeah, that's so fucking mysterious.
It's a huge topic. Give us a rundown of what it's about and what your thoughts are on these two issues.
Well, as a libertarian, I'm sure you're very, very aware that our world is ruled by big, huge, monopolistic corporations that are...
Like, yes, I mean, as a libertarian, that's who funds them.
They're tied in with the government, and they use their alliance with the state and their connections with gigantic banks
to fund economic think tanks that created so-called libertarianism. That's where it fucking came from.
To dominate the world and keep the world poor in order to keep themselves at the top.
Yeah.
And that is a reality that has kind of defined the international situation for quite some time. And
yeah, a few hundred years.
That situation has a lot to do with what the American Revolution was about. It was...
What? That situation... Well, yes, in the sense that it was people who are looking to do their own imperialism. I mean, if you actually... One of the just wild things that you see when you actually look at what the founders of this regime said is, like, from day one they were calling it an empire. From day one they were talking about how they were gonna just take over everything. They wanted to take over South America, all of it. They absolutely wanted to take over Cuba. I mean, they called it the infant empire. Like, they were doing imperialism before they even properly had an army.
It's about America saying we want economic growth. We want to break out of the domination of the British Empire. We want to grow and develop. We don't want to just be the trading hub for the British Empire and their sea. sea-based empire. We want to.
Oh, yeah, their sea-based empire. Dugan. Yeah. I remember the days, like, when I had first heard of Caleb Maupin. When it was a whole new... When he was just sort of a new ghoul. And Thought Slime was still doing a lot of videos taking the piss out of him. He got really, really angry that he was being linked to Dugan. He was like, I met the guy once. Well, I have nothing to do with him. Stop saying that I'm a Duganist. Stop associating me with this guy. And now he's just like name dropping some of his. I mean, calling them key concepts gives him way more credit than he deserves because his stuff is shallow as fuck. But like the idea of the land-based empire versus the sea-based empire, that's Dugan. Yeah, he's an innovative Nazgul.
Grow, and we want to have development. And I think that if you look at what's going on in the world today, the big question that defines things, I think libertarians would agree, is are you for growth, or do you think growth is bad? Because
wait, that's the question? Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. That's the question. Because like if you think growth is if you're for growth, then you're for massive oil extraction and increasing exploitation and all that wonderful stuff. But yeah, I mean, he's talking to the exact right people, these right libertarians, because they're also for growth at all costs.
The big monopolies at the top of the World Economic Forum.
Yeah, well, they used to deny any influence. They used to. You go back. Oh, the ACP. Oh, sorry, I was thinking. I was confusing it with the other Nazgul outfit of grifters. Yeah, I mean, I just find it fascinating. He denied it for so long. Caleb did, and now he's just sort of casually just dropping his concepts and stuff. And
then they have basically decided humanity has to stop growing. And they are putting forward these Malthusian notions.
Ooh, Malthusianism, of course.
That growth is somehow bad, that overpopulation, to drive...
Oh, okay, Malthusianism isn't that growth... First of all, I love how he just takes the word growth. He never defines it. He just kind of uses it to mean everything. Anything getting bigger. So, like... Whereas just the population, the economy, all these things are the same thing. Either you're for all of these things getting bigger, or you're not. You're for none of them getting bigger.
Down consumption, and humanity is resisting. And there's a whole chunk of the world that broke out of their domination with anti-colonial revolutions in the 20th century or since then because they wanted economic growth. And the American people also want economic growth.
Do you understand that those are two very different... This is like... I mean, this has been the thing all along. Because he would quote Engels or Marx, I forget which one it was, talking about how you needed to increase production. Everything, in order to get to, like, socialism and communism, you needed to increase production. And they were talking in the late 19th century. You know, before production had massively increased to the point where we were post-scarcity. But he still treats the situation in the U.S. relative to the concept of economic growth as just identical to the situation in Senegal.
They don't want to be degrown in order to save Wall Street and London's domination of the world. They want economic growth.
And he still doesn't know that the city of London isn't the same thing as London.
We, the American people, have a common interest with people around the world that are struggling against the rule of Wall Street and London. And that's what my book is about. It's talks I've given all over the world, in Brazil, in Iran, in Russia as well.
That's why he can write it so quickly, because it's just he has somebody transcribe the shit that he says, and then they just throw it into a book and it's done.
As well as talks I've given here in the United States, at anti-war gatherings, articles that I've written. There's an article that I wrote that was in the daily newspaper of North Korea that they actually picked up.
Oh, wait. Which daily? What? Rodong Shinmun? Or is he talking about the English language daily, the Pyongyang Times? I'm going to have to look this up now.
Nice. And Yeah,
and like, and I'm very curious. How exactly did they pick him up? I mean, I assume it must be the Pyongyang Times. I have never seen a single. I read Rodong Shinmun fairly, not exactly regularly, but on and off anyway. I have never seen a non-Korean author published there. So I'm assuming it must be the English language one.
Global movement against the rule of the world by big banks and big monopolies who want to stop economic growth. That's what my book's about.
So, I mean, and this is also kind of a conceptual shout out to LaRouche, who is one of the big people, really big on infinite growth.
That's great. I would just make one correction. I wouldn't call myself a libertarian. Probably.
Interesting.
A Catholic anarchist would be closer to how.
A Catholic anarchist.
I would describe it.
An anar-Catholic. So, contra toda autoridad salvo el Papa?
But certainly the anarchist part is there. Not that I have a problem with libertarians, but I don't necessarily identify. But the question would be, and you sort of answered it here, but where is...
Oh, I love how I wasn't even really looking for somebody to, like, be a fake anarchist in this today. Yes, yesterday I sought it out. Today, so we got this... Yes, he's an anar-Catholic.
Meeting of the mind.
This is apparently a thing.
Because, as I mentioned in the opener, there is a lot of sectarianism. How dare you talk to this group? How dare you publish an article in the North Korean newspaper? How dare you cite someone who doesn't agree with you completely?
Where, like, all the people that people are saying how dare you about are, like, just fucking Nazis.
So how can we explain, so where is the meeting of the minds, in a way, between someone that may come from the left tradition, maybe even a communist tradition,
and someone like Caleb Maupin?
Someone who on the other end of the spectrum, or seemingly on the other end of the spectrum, may be a conservative, may be a libertarian, may even be an anarchist.
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
How do we define the problem and work together in a way to look for solutions?
Well, that's, interesting. So you don't identify as a libertarian, and I don't really at this point identify as a communist.
Yeah, which, I mean, it's interesting that he's using the word identify as, which already distances himself from it.
Because I saw, as much as I celebrate the achievements of countries that have broken out of Wall Street's domination, like China that's lifted 800 million people out of poverty, and the great, achievements of, like, Libya under Gaddafi that, built up the highest life expectancy on the African continent and was trying to create an African national bank. I don't identify as a communist because I have seen that you cannot build a movement based on jealousy and resentment. You cannot build a...
Well, this is new. That's not what he was back when he first started floating this whole innovationism shit. The whole thing was he actually did. We watched it on stream where he had these long videos where he was just really, really pissed off because all the communists kept pointing out, from all the different communist traditions too, kept pointing out that he wasn't really a communist, that he was actually just grifting. And he said he was sick of it, and so he didn't want to give anyone any more grist, wasn't going to give people old Richard Nixon to kick around anymore. So he's like, so we're going to call ourselves something different. We're no longer pretending to be communists. And now he's saying, wait.
Trying to create an African national bank. I don't identify as a communist because I have seen that you cannot build a movement based on jealousy and resentment. You cannot...
Yeah, well, that's what communism is about. It's about jealousy and resentment. So, like, how many people who were there in the CPI when he was calling himself a communist and joined it because he was calling himself a communist are still with him now that he says communism is based on jealousy and resentment? Like, actually, this actually sounds he's talking like Pinochet. I mean, talking about communism, los comunistas son resentidos. Rendición incondicional.
Not build a movement by stoking envy. And
by stoking envy.
Any talk of communism, especially in America, immediately turns into a conversation about making everyone equal.
That has not been my experience, although...
And the only way you can make people equal is to create vast abundance.
Well, no. You see, that assumes that the idea is... Okay, first of all, is he saying he's against creating vast abundance? And also, maybe the people who own nearly everything shouldn't?
As long as there is scarcity in this world, some will have and some will have not. And
well, yeah, but on a lot of things there is no scarcity anymore, and still there are people who have everything and people who don't.
The communist countries of the 20th century made the mistake because they were barricaded, because they were isolated, and because they had the...
I mean, a lot of them weren't isolated for a while. I mean, the countries he's talking about, for much of the... For, like, roughly half a century after World War II, were not isolated because they had Comic-Con, they had the Warsaw Pact. In fact, I mean, there are a lot of them, the ones that are still standing, are a lot more isolated now than they used to be.
Eclectical materialist philosophy as the basis of their political orientation, they made the mistake of trying to create equality in poverty. And that was a disaster. And if you talk to any of the Cubans today, they'll tell you we no longer believe in the economic theories of Che Guevara. We maybe recognize him as a heroic fighter.
Wait. This is interesting. This is... Well, of course, I have to remind myself. that one of the constants about Caleb is that he will say completely different things depending on who he's talking with. If he's talking to this guy, so he's like, yeah, actually, fuck Cuba, fuck the Warsaw Pact. Actually, communists son todos resentidos. All they are is just envious all the time. That's the problem. That's why I'm not calling myself a communist anymore, as if I ever was. And then he will get into another... He will go on to another... show with somebody else, and he will say something completely different.
Against colonialism in the Congo and in Bolivia, but we don't want to create his economic policies. That when he tried to create the new socialist man in the early 1960s in Cuba and build socialism on the basis of no material incentives, it was a disaster. And you go to China, they tell you...
Oh, wait, okay. So the idea is... I mean, this is just standard right-wing talking points. He could have gotten this from the Koch brothers. Given the people he's talking with, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually did.
As much as they honor Mao as the founder of the country, as the guy who got their revolution going, the Cultural Revolution, the last years of Mao's life, where they were stoking resentment and, people were taking revenge on people based on what their parents did before the revolution, that was a disaster. You cannot build equality in poverty, and Marx himself even.
Well, I like how he just adds that on there. He just adds that on there, as if that followed, just in order to, because he just realizes he doesn't have a way to end that. Caleb wants to move into the Tucker Carlson lane. Oh, he's been in the Tucker Carlson lane. Yeah, I mean, he's been talking to people like Tucker Carlson for ages. He was all over fucking Tucker Carlson's dick back before TYT decided to suck up to him.
Yeah, in his book, The Critique of the Goethe Program, he said...
The Goethe... No, the Goethe... Gotha, not Goethe. Okay, he does not know the difference between Goethe, the poet, goiters, a growth related to thyroid issues, and Gotha, which is a town.
Only when the springs of cooperative wealth flow more abundantly. Only.
I wonder if anything has changed in terms of the amount of production that goes on since he wrote those words.
When labor becomes life's prime want, no longer a necessity. Only then can you create a society where you have each according to his own ability and to each according to his needs. And so Marx himself didn't even really believe you could create equality and poverty.
Oh, he's had interviews with Tucker. He's Caleb Maupin has had, not only has he had interviews with Tucker, he brags about the fact that he gets his cult members onto Tucker. He has a direct line to Tucker Carlson. Probably more so now that Tucker Carlson is no longer at Fox.
And I believe in economic growth and the revolutions of the 20th century that happened, that created China.
I don't think, he does not actually know what economic growth is, I don't think. I have never once heard him use the term in a way that indicates that he actually knows what it is. He just, it's just on the level of the way most people who, like, get their economic views from just reading the media, where literally everybody says that economic growth is a good thing. That seems to be the extent of his understanding of it.
Made Russia an industrial superpower that led to the Islamic Republic of Iran. They were not revolutions largely about making everyone equal. They were revolutions.
I mean, that actually was kind of a big thing in the Russian Revolution.
About these countries that were under Wall Street's grip, demanding the right to have economic growth. That's what the revolutions were about.
Wow, yeah, I mean, if you go back and you look at the placards that people were holding during the Russian Revolution back in 17, it's all about economic growth. Nobody, nothing else, nothing about communism, nothing about collectivizing the wealth and everything. It's all about economic growth. So he's just decided that since he has changed his position yet again, that he's going to just bring everything that he wants to be able to use as a positive reference point with him. Fucking link spammer called Poignant Mortician. Jesus, what the hell kind of name is that for your link spam bot?
And if we can understand that the issue is demanding economic growth and celebrating human beings for their creativity and their innovation,
do you know what economic growth is?
And that we need a state that would cultivate that and encourage economic growth, not a state like we have here in America that is actively trying to shut down small business owners. And
he does not know what economic growth is, because you can have economic growth and shut down small business owners. I mean, it's just really amazing. He clearly has read a fair bit of Marx. And somehow he missed the part where one of the things that always happens in capitalism sooner or later is that these small fish get eaten up because they can't compete with the big boys. This is just literally how capitalism works.
And crush economic growth, but rather a state that invests in communities and people, not in derivative rip-off schemes, and not in war and destruction and a military.
It's okay if you have an original rip-off scheme. You can have a rip-off scheme if it's creative. But none of this derivative bullshit, okay? No derivative rip-off. I hate it when you have a rip-off scheme that is just clearly plagiarized.
Military-industrial complex. That's what I believe. And for a long time, I understood that to be communism. But as we see this kind of woke left that has emerged in America, they don't believe that. They believe something very different.
I mean, yes, it's called communism. You should look into it.
A lot of what they believe is Malthusian economics. A lot of what they believe
take another drink.
They want to incite division and tear people down.
Adria said that she would be drinking anytime he said Malthusianism, and he just said it.
and it's not where I identify. So you don't identify as libertarian. I don't identify as a communist. So we're blazing new trail here.
No, this is not a new trail. I hate to bring it to you, but like grifting was invented before you.
Out of these 20th century political categories because they don't answer the questions of the 21st century.
Ooh, wow. He is so angling to be the next fucking neocon. These 20th century, I mean, this is these 20th century economic concepts. Like, this is the sort of bullshit you read in, like, The Economist or The New Statesman. Will be like, yeah, you know, communism made sense in the 19th century. Yeah, the concepts made sense. But these days, like, I mean, what the hell was materialism even explain? Like, you can't, I mean, Marx's model of capitalism only predicts kind of broad strokes of things that he never would have imagined. Yeah, I mean, this is like literally the sort of neoliberal bullshit.
Absolutely. And it's interesting you bring up Cuba, because I actually had a very long, may or may not have been wine-fueled dinner with Ricardo Alarcon, who was the Speaker of the Parliament at the time, an extremely powerful, obviously probably the third most powerful person in Cuba at the time. This is back in the early 2000s. We had a long evening and a long talk together, and he essentially said what you just said. We understand the need to change. We need to move more toward economic growth. However,
I mean, let's just remember that all of this stuff that whenever you hear people in Cuba saying this, it is very much under duress, because the only way that they are that there is any gap in the blockade is if they allow foreign private investment to exploit Cuban labor and Cuban resources. That like, you remember there was that whole ridiculous scandal around the hotels when the flotilla to Cuba went there, and the hotels they stayed in, and the fact that those hotels had electricity. And the reason is the blockade, the fuel blockade, did not apply to the private companies, the foreign private companies that had been allowed to open up to operate some hotels, the hotels that had been operated perfectly well for a long time by the, Cuban tourism ministry, for much less money, and it was all going directly to healthcare and education in Cuba. But if you do that, then the entire country gets blockaded. Whereas if you have a couple of these places that are controlled by foreign investors, then there's at least a little bit of money allowed to come into the country. So when we talk about these things, when you listen to someone like Alarcón saying this to somebody in the U.S., you have to understand that this is also happening in a context where the U.S. was strangling them, and the only lifeline that they had was to do a little bit of neoliberalism.
We cannot allow what happened to Russia in the 90s to happen. We cannot allow the entirety of our country to be bought up and to face what we faced before under the dictatorship Batista. So it was understood that he, at least for my interpretation of our discussion, he was looking for more of a kind of Lukashenko type of slow growth, except...
I mean, it's interesting that he mentions Lukashenko, who has, like, basically serfdom in Lukashenko. There's Andrei Rudoy, an ML from Russia, who has a great channel called Vestnik Bury. If you speak Russian, I don't know, there are English subtitles on some of it, but he did a whole thing on Belarus. And he talked about the way the labor law works there, and how they have indentured servitude. They have serfdom. If you go to work on one of these like state these like state-run farms, you cannot just quit. For example, you are forced to work there for a term of years, and you don't necessarily get paid either.
The fact that we need market forces to enter, but don't open the door so much that things are actually worse at the end of the day for our people. So I think think it's interesting that you mentioned that, because that was certainly my experience there on the ground with him.
Yeah. Yeah, and that matches where a lot of countries are. Marco Rubio, in his attacks on Cuba, says, well, Cuba's economic system can't change unless their political system changes. Well, look at China. Look at Vietnam. They were...
yeah, I mean, Vietnam, where they've just started just giving away land to Trump personally, it's worth noting. Luna Uy has a video on it that I haven't watched yet. And for anyone who watched her videos and wondered if she was ever going to do any, because all of her videos that for quite a long time were actually quite positive about the way Vietnam was operating, and maybe suspected that she would never say a single critical word or something like that. Oh, you can see she is saying critical words. She has a whole video on, the way Vietnam is just giving Trump land. Just not the U.S. government, just Trump personally.
Both able to maintain the rule of the Communist Party, but change their economic system to be one that embraces small businesses, that embraces...
So, you have a party that calls itself communist, but it still is in power, but it just doesn't do communism.
...for an investment, etc., And in the 90s, when the Soviet Union fell, and you observed this straight up, I know you probably have a lot to say about this, not just the former Soviet Union, but the Eastern Bloc, those countries were devastated. The fall of the Soviet Union was a devastating event economically, in terms of life expectancy dropping, mass unemployment, the rise of drug gangs, the mass...
I mean, nothing he's saying is wrong here. It was an absolute fucking disaster. Easily one of the biggest mass fatality events in the modern period.
Suicide rate going through the roof. I mean, it was a devastating event, and that is what Cuba doesn't want to have. They'd like to have foreign investment. They would like.
Would they like to have foreign investment though? I think they would like to have access to access to trade. The trouble is, and this was the same thing with Vietnam as well, that the only way, they were put before this choice: either you can be completely cut off from the world economy, or you can allow foreign capital to exploit your country, at least a little bit. And that was the situation in Vietnam in the 80s. That's been the situation in Cuba. That has been the way that's been forced in there. So it's not that they're really keen on I'm sure they look at what foreign direct investment looks like in just Latin America. They don't have to look at just the Soviet Union. They can just look at Latin America. Foreign direct investment is a fucking disaster in every single country surrounding them. It's just completely plundering their resources. The money does not stay in the country. In order to get this investment, you have to completely screw over the workers. It's an absolute fucking disaster.
To have more of a small business and entrepreneurial layer in their country, and
also known as the petty bourgeoisie.
Position
Caleb's besties.
The Cuban government has been for the last 20, 30 years. So when Marco Rubio talks about it, he's just not being honest about what they're...
Wow. Marco Rubio's not being honest, chat. Who could have thought? Who could have expected that? Did you have Marco Rubio being dishonest on your bingo card?
Their positions are.
In fact, ironically, the dinner that we had was I don't remember the name of it, it's been a long time ago, but it was in a special designated house that the state had allowed to operate as a semi-private restaurant. And so they were...
Yeah, and here's the thing. If you are a U.S. citizen, you have to use these facilities that are owned by foreign direct investors so that no money goes to benefit the Cuban economy. So no money is going to benefit, healthcare or education, the public budget or at all. And the whole thing, you can't talk about this stuff without talking about the massive coercion that goes into this situation. Yeah, Narco Rubio Mentiroso. No, weón. Ese weón siempre dice la verdad.
dipping their toes into the idea of market forces. And so it was a private restaurant that we ate at and had the conversation at. So it was definitely the way they're moving. And you're absolutely right about what happened to the former Eastern Bloc after the collapse of communism.
Yeah, because of market forces. Because it turns out market forces actually, market forces will fuck you up, it turns out.
It wasn't really the collapse of communism because, from my experience...
They hadn't gotten to communism yet.
As you say, like in the 80s, the ruling parties, the ruling people in the Eastern Bloc were not dedicated to communism whatsoever. They were dedicated to maintaining power. And ironically...
Caleb didn't say that. It will be very interesting to see how Caleb responds to that. But Caleb certainly did not say that.
They became sort of almost like monarchists because they wanted to make sure the next generation, the next generation of the nomenclatura was able to retain the same privilege.
Caleb doesn't understand many things. What Caleb kind of understands is grifting. He knows how to seem like an intellectual to people who don't read. To people who value the aesthetic of intellectualism, I'm not sure what you're referring to in the case of Japan.
Just that they had been able to carve out, from the bones of their ancestors, perhaps. So you had, like in Hungary, for example, the rise of the SDS, the Free Democrats Party, which were the favorite of the neoliberals in the U.S. under the Clinton administration. These were the great people. They all spoke English. They were just like us. Well, what they were, in fact, was the nomenclatura, who were not interested in people who had been disenfranchised.
Yeah, well, I mean...
as under the previous system. They weren't interested in lifting them up. They were interested in enriching their children and their children's children.
Well, I mean, no wonder the U.S. ruling class looked at them like, yeah, these are our kinds of guys. That's exactly how they think.
What happened, and that's why you had that terrible decline, at least from my experience in Central and Eastern Europe. I'm not as familiar with the finer points of the Russian transition, the Soviet transition to Russia.
Well, Japan actually did something like actually was kind of careful on when it came to the way they started opening up, because what you have to remember is so the U.S. shows up in the person of Commodore Perry with the black ships, Kurobune, and says, okay, either Japan is going to completely open up their economy to U.S. exploitation unilaterally, or we are going to start a war against Japan and just occupy the country. And the leadership in Japan at the time realized that this was serious, realized they had to do something about it, and so a big part of what they did was they just decided to bring in, experts from all over the West to teach them essentially how to build a modern capitalist economy, so that they would not actually end up just being an economic vassal to the U.S. They wanted to have something of their own that they could actually sort of hold against it, while at the same time being in a position to sort of interact with capitalism. Like, they brought in German lawyers and engineers, also a lot of French lawyers. Like, there was a draft of you hear about this guy Boissonard a lot when you're reading Japanese obligation law, because he actually came up with a draft civil code that they didn't end up using, but it was a major inspiration for the civil code that they ultimately did use. And if you look at the way the civil code is structured, it is in many ways very similar to the French and the German civil codes. So they went and actually decided to try to put themselves in a situation where they might be able to maintain their economic independence, because they had already sort of begun to build an industrial base and a legal superstructure to work with it.
Yeah. Well, what's happening right now, and the reason guys like you and I can talk, and the reason so many people on the left have gone after me, and I'm sure you've been criticized by people,
is because you're grifters
on the right or people in the libertarian camp. What's happening now is very similar to what happened in the lead up to the Second World War.
Okay. Which, similar to which thing? I mean, that... The thing about a statement like that is it's so broad, there's so many things you could be talking about, that it's easy to give it more credit than it's really entitled to.
In the lead up to the Second World War, every major political movement divided in two. You know, in Britain, you had a conservative, a guy named Oswald Mosley, and he built up this group of conservative, patriotic, young...
He's talking about the British Union of Fascists.
Men called the British Union of Fascists. And so the British government they created, they got the Oxford Group and Pastor Frank Buckman from America, and they created a conservative, patriotic group of British people that were basically...
Wait, they needed to bring somebody in from the U.S. in order to create a bunch of conservative Brits?
They had almost the same look and vision as Oswald Mosley, but they were against the Nazis, and they were for an alliance with the Soviet Union. And so you had, you know, the Oxford Group and moral rearmament, and you had the British Union of Fascists. Very similar.
I mean, so that's his account of fascism, is that just conservatism just kind of split? That's it? That's what you fucking got?
Ideology, but on opposite sides. In America, in the black movement, right, you had the Nation of Islam that was very, very critical of you know, white society, and saw Japan as a non-white empire that was rising and was somewhat sympathetic to the rise of Japan. So
I mean, these days they're quite sympathetic to the rise of Scientology.
You had the Nation of Islam. And then in response to that, you had the rise of, there was a pastor...
No, Oswald was absolutely not friendly towards the USSR. He was a fascist. He was, like, dead set against anything even vaguely invoking the scent of communism. No, this Oxford Group, he's saying, was open to an alliance with the Soviet Union.
In New York City, Father Divine. And you had the rise of Father Divine. And Father Divine was a black liberation activist, but he was sympathetic to Roosevelt and the Soviet Union, and he was opposed to Japan. He was opposed to the Nazis.
I mean, it's interesting that he's leaving out, I mean, he's leaving out Langston Hughes, he's leaving out a whole generation of black CPUSA activists. Naturally, he's leaving out CLR James. I mean, this does not shock me one bit. Of course he was leaving out CLR James, because he was sort of a heterodox Trotskyist, who is very well... If you haven't read CLR James, do yourself a favor and read CLR James. You can find him on Marxist.org. Very well worth reading.
And then in communism, you had the Communist Party that entered an alliance with Roosevelt and, you know, obviously was sympathetic to Stalin. But then you had Trotskyism. And Trotsky opposed the Second World War, and his followers were thrown in jail for trying to basically unionize the army during the Second World War, and were opposing the Second World War and were working against Roosevelt in the labor movement. So every major political movement...
interesting that he's avoiding the most popular smears that you hear against Trotskyists from the period. Like, Stalin's propaganda organs actually accused Trotskyists based on nothing, based on absolutely zero evidence of collaborating with the Nazis in Spain and elsewhere. They never had any evidence of it. They've never provided any evidence of it. For the most part, people in that tradition have, as far as I can tell, have decided to just kind of let that slide, because it was just obviously bullshit and they don't want to defend it. You occasionally run across people who still do. Yes. Tony Cliff, who definitely, I mean, this God, when you think about the Socialist Workers' Party in Britain as it is in the past decade or so, just a fucking cult that prints out branded placards and covers up rape.
Every ideology, you had people that kind of maybe espoused the same ideological principles, but
technically it's not all slander. A lot of it is libel.
We're on opposite sides, and I'm seeing that now. Like, I'm more concerned, were you for Julian Assange, or were you against him?
Well, in what way? For him in what way? There's more than one way to be for him. Like, because that's not the same thing as saying, are you for what WikiLeaks was doing or against it?
Are you for sending weapons to Ukraine, or are you against it, right? Are you for bombing Iran and continuing U.S. aid to Israel, or are you...
Caleb has managed to avoid any... He does not show any embarrassment at all for the fact that he was like the one person who seemed to actually be convinced that Trump was some sort of a peace candidate.
Against it. That's what I'm concerned about, and I see every major ideological and political movement being divided over these questions, and that's the period that we're in. And I believe we are headed.
Wait, we're in a period where people disagree about stuff. Chat, we're in a period where people disagree about things. That is, I mean, that's never happened before. That people disagreed with each other before World War II. You know, people disagreed with each other before World War. Like, we really ought to chart the history of people disagreeing with each other. I bet there were disagreements before all the wars.
For a bigger confrontation, I certainly hope we don't see World War III. But if we do, it's pretty clear the divisions are dividing every political movement, and
that is what divisions do.
Those divisions are going to be more important than what
the divisions that are dividing every political movement are the important division, as opposed to which divisions?
What ideology you espouse, what books you have on your shelf, what pictures are hanging on your wall. That's going to be secondary.
It's interesting that he has not changed the books on his shelf at all. Like,
which side you're on.
And I think a good example of that really is the Thomas Massey phenomenon, because here you have someone who answers each one of those questions and has done so in a way that I think both of us would agree with.
I mean, that's the thing. The way those particular questions are not great questions. Like, yeah, I mean, first of all, for or against Julian Assange depends entirely with what we're talking about. I mean, are we talking about when when the WikiLeaks party in the first election they contested in Australia gave all of their preferences to the neo-Nazi Australia First Party? Or are we talking about when he set up WikiLeaks and released all sorts of really crucial documents, proving serious high-level criminality, and then we got to see how nothing fucking changed. Hey, old Al Hooten, how you doing? And the only people who were actually held accountable were the people who were responsible for making that stuff known to the public. You know, there's a difference. Oh, but I would say that maybe there are other things that are at least as important, because the thing is, why matters.
But the charge isn't that, well, you're wrong in what your positions are. It's that you're not.
But I mean, he is
loyal to your party. You're not loyal to the brand that you're supposed to be.
I mean, I would imagine that they also say that they're wrong. I mean, it isn't like people aren't going to fucking Caleb going, you know, fuck you, man. You're right, but fuck you. You're right. I disagree with you. Like, people generally disagree with each other because they think each other is wrong. That's usually how disagreements work. Pro tip, like, if you've never been in a disagreement, usually the starting point is that somebody thinks somebody else is wrong.
Forget about the fact that the brand itself is disloyal to the ideas that it espoused to get elections. And I think this is exactly what you're saying. You're an unpatriotic, you're a disloyal Republican because you continue to hold these views while your leader has shifted his views on them.
Yeah. I mean,
that's kind of an ironic thing to say right there, because that has to be how some people in the CPI feel, because their leader has seriously shifted his views. I mean, his views shift a lot. His views have an automatic transmission. He is not driving his views with a stick. Like, I mean, people joined this group thinking it was about communism. It wasn't, but that's what they thought. And now he's sitting here talking about communism is about resentment and envy. Like, sounding like fucking Rush Limbaugh or Augusto Pinochet, weón. Like, you know, you espouse the line that the party had when you joined it, and the leader has totally changed, and you're supposed to just move along with them.
Thomas Massie heroically was standing up against the murder of Iranians, against Israel's crimes, saying America first doesn't mean Israel first, and his own camp went after him. And look, I think the fact that Thomas Massie, the fact that they had to go after him the way he did is very telling. You know, I used to live in Dennis Kucinich's district, and Dennis Kucinich was a member of Congress. He was anti.
Yeah, he was Bernie Sanders before Bernie Sanders was Bernie Sanders.
War, criticized Big Pharma, took a lot of good positions, and mainstream media would just kind of ignore him. It was kind of like, oh, you're cute, there you are, Dennis, all right, that was fine. And it wasn't really a problem, and he could be...
You know, like, he has it written into the bylaws of his organization that he's always right on matters of politics. Like, he is the ideological leader. Nobody else gets to have an idea and have it have any chance at being the idea of the organization unless he agrees with it.
Congress for years, but now... Thomas Massie, you know, being a dissident Republican who is...
That's an interesting use of the phrase dissident Republican. Maybe I have to explain. Do you know? Okay, chat. Do you maybe you know why I immediately had to laugh when he said dissident Republican? Because in Ireland, the term usually refers to Irish Republicans who did not sign on to the Belfast Agreement. Irish Republicans who disagreed with the idea of unilateral disarmament and becoming part of the colonial administration in the 6 counties. That is what dissident Republican means. Oh, hell yes. I mean, if you've been following the horrible news out of Belfast, these pogroms that were started by loyalist groups, which is to say they were started by Crown Forces, by the RUC, PSNI they're called now, by these loyalists have been irregular forces of the British colonial administration in Ireland for over a century. They've been they've been run as an appendage of the British state, and they started these massive, just hideous pogroms. And the Republican community, they tried, first of all, they tried to make this a cross-community thing. They, in their advanced publicity for these pogroms, they tried to invite people from Republican communities to join in their racist rampage of burning down the houses of black people and brown people in Belfast. And nobody showed up, first of all. Like, there were literally 8 people from West Belfast who showed up to support. Everybody else from West Belfast was there to oppose them. And there are pretty much as many Republican groups in Ireland at this point as they are... Well, no, this was Glen Gormley loyalists. But yeah, I mean, they're connected to the Orange Lodge. All this stuff has fluid boundaries. I mean, there are practically as many Republican groups in Ireland as there are Trotskyist groups. All kinds of different splits at different times. But one thing they're all united on was they absolutely their opposition to these scumbags. So different Republican groups went out to remove racist graffiti, to remove to provide like food parcels and raise funds for the people who are victimized by the pogroms. And also to stand watch and patrol the streets to make sure that if any of these fascist fucks shows up, that they are quickly dispatched. I mean, they're doing exactly what you would hope to see Republicans doing. You know, people who commemorate the life of James Connolly every year. They're doing the thing. And you love to see it. Yeah, that is like the little silver lining of this horrible situation in the North.
Anti-Israel, and is speaking up about important issues. That can't be tolerated because people are listening to him. It's more of a threat to the status quo. It used to be Congress, you had Ron Paul, you had Cynthia McKinney, you had Dennis Kucinich, you had Thomas Massey. Fine, okay. They say stuff, it's off script, but that just kind of shows that we have a big tent in America. We've got room for different views.
Yeah, I mean, it is true. You never really heard from any of them. Like, well, Ron Paul would get some reach because he was a fascist fuck. But, like, Dennis Kucinich, the most you'd ever hear is when he was at the primary as the sheepdog candidate. Other than that, you never heard anything. I mean, Cynthia McKinney, same thing. I mean, until she went over to the Greens, and then you would, like, hear something during an election year. But, yeah, you did not actually... There was just that reach did not exist. And, speaking of reaching things, we have reached the time when it is time for me to wrap up for tonight. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. And if you enjoyed the stream and want to see more of it, I will be back on Friday at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time. And I look forward to seeing you then. Have a good night. I hope you have a good week. And I look forward to seeing you.